Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawm ad-din wa ba'd. I'd like to welcome you all online to our fourth installment of this class we're doing, Tafsir of Surah al-Fatihah. Alhamdulillah. I'd like to apologize for last week because I was supposed to do it last week, but I got caught up and I couldn't make it, so inshallah we'll continue this week. There's no one in the audience today because I didn't want to notify anybody, and then I didn't make it. You know, my schedule's kind of hectic, but I don't want to stop doing this class because some of you know me. You know, I'll start on something, then I won't complete it. So I'm trying to get in the habit of completing stuff, inshallah. So I want to get out of that habit. But for those who have been reviewing online, we left off. We were talking about the basmalah. We were talking about the two attributes, al-Rahman and al-Rahim. And we said that there's a difference between them, although they come from the same root word. And al-Rahman means that one who has tremendous mercy. And it is, it is excessive and profuse, all right? And we gave the example of Surah Al-A'raf, ayat 150. And then al-Rahim is perpetual mercy, right? And it means permanence. So, and we also discussed briefly about Al-Rahman being that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has that mercy for all of his creation, and Al-Rahim is a special mercy that he has for the believers, all right? And so put them together, Al-Rahman, Rahim, it says, the one who always, meaning Allah, he's the one who always has tremendous and perpetual mercy. Al-Rahman is general, and Al-Rahim is specific for the believers. All right, and then we discussed about Allah, Al-Rahman being an attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's that, of his self or his essence. All right, and we said that Al-Rahman, his attributes being that they don't change. His attributes, they are just like he is, right? So meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he doesn't need an object to be merciful to for him to be Al-Rahman or Al-Rahim. He is, he will always be that. These attributes are eternal. All right. So we'll continue. So we left off, we said we'll continue with the basmalah. So the first thing about the basmalah, you can see it on the board. The basmalah is when you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And the basmalah is actually not a complete sentence. All right. So the basmalah is actually not a complete sentence, even though we say, in the name of Allah, the gracious, most merciful. All right. So in this is implied, in the basmalah, the meaning of the basmalah is this, inshallah, is I begin. When we say Bismillah, I begin my recitation of blessing and captivation in the name of Allah, who is the first, al-awwalu, he is the last, al-akhiru, and he is the manifest, al-zahiru, and the hidden, al-batinu. And he is the one that his mercy encompasses all things. His mercy encompasses all things. And then you also saying, when you say the basmalah, is that I declare myself free and distant from what the mushrikeen, the polytheists, and misguided people. Used to do when they used to begin their recitations in the name of Lat, Uzza, and other gods. Other gods, from the false gods. All right. So this is the whole thing that's packed in the basmalah. So you're beginning your recitation, in the name of Allah, who's subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that you are declaring His wonders and His greatness and His majesty, and you're removing yourself from sin and misguidance. Now, there's an important point that I want to mention real quick. We mentioned at the end of this about Lat and Uzza and other gods, because there's a somewhat kind of popular theory that's being promoted, and it says that the pagan Arabs, that they used to believe in Allah who subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they also made partners with Him. So there's a popular notion that says that the only difference between them and you, as a Muslim who said La ilaha illallah, declare Allah's wonders, is that they gave worship to the false gods, but they still believed in Allah. And this is false, because when you say shahada, you're declaring. We just mentioned that you are freeing yourself from mushrikeen and the gods that they worship, right? So those people, even though they believe in Allah, they believe other gods have powers alongside with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's the true meaning of shirk, right? So they didn't believe. So, and basically what these people are saying is that really, besides them worshiping other gods, then they have the same belief as us, and this is not true. They worship idols. They worship deities, And this goes into another thing. There's a certain movement that they use this they use this as a pretext to declare Muslims as mushriks, and this is a very serious situation. So they say that a Muslim may commit an act of shirk, and then he'll be like he worshiping another god besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a very important topic, because we're in a place where we're saturated with these people who will, accuse a Muslim of shirk at the very hat. Where we're in this class, we're seeing that when you recite the basmalah, it might not even be known to you, but you are saying all that stuff that we just wrote on the board. You are just saying, when you recite Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, it's embedded that you're saying that I begin my recitation of blessing and captivation in the name of Allah. And we already know Allah who subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is one, there's no partners with Him. And He is al-awwalu wal-akhiru wal-zahiru wal-batinu. So you are declaring His oneness, right? So just by default of recitation of that, you can't be a Muslim, right? And that you declare that His mercy encompasses all things, and you free yourself from the polytheists and misguided people. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you a great favor in making this sentence, part of your recitation, And of course, we mentioned in the previous class the scholars' differences as to whether this is part of al-Fatihah or not. But it's a jewel. It's a jewel, just in those two names we covered. So for those who are watching online or going to be viewing, there is an assignment for homework that I want you to find the verses that mention those false gods that the Arabs used to worship. So I want you to research, find the ayahs, and you can either text me, email it to me, or you can put it in the comment section on the video, inshallah ta'ala. Alright, but just a little research. Okay. So in the basmalah, you're getting all of that. Okay, so the next thing we mentioned is about the status of the basmalah. Is it a verse or not? So there's disagreement about it being a verse of Surah al-Fatihah. Alright? But then there's no disagreement about it being a verse in Surah al-Naml. Surah 16, ayah 30. That there is a verse in there, not 16, Naml is 27. And in that story, it's with the Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam. He went to the Queen Bilqis and was, and then he had sent her a letter. And one of her scribes had read it and said, this is from Prophet Sulaiman, and it says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So he started this letter with the basmalah. So there's no doubt that that is a verse there. And it said, there's disagreement about whether it is an independent verse or just used to distinguish between surahs. So there's a disagreement about the basmalah, So, ikhtilaf, the first about the basmalah. So what we're talking about here is how scholars really, really dug into this. So the first thing about the basmalah, is it a verse or not? So the first point is that it's difference about al-Fatihah. So the first thing is scholars have differed about whether it's a verse of Surah al-Fatihah or not. Some say yes, some say no. We covered that in the first or second video of this series. And in the Shafi'i school, we when we recite al-Fatihah, we recite the basmalah out loud. All right. So some schools they don't recite it or they don't recite it out loud. So the second point of ikhtilaf, which is different amongst the scholars, is that what is an independent verse? What is an independent verse? Or is it just used to separate the surahs? All right, because between every surah, you start each surah with the basmalah. So scholars have differed over this. Is the basmalah at the beginning of every surah? Is it part of the surah itself, or is it just used to distinguish, is it used to just distinguish between the surahs, or is it part of the surah itself? All right. So then you got people basically in two categories that are pro-basmalah, and now this is my wording, pro-basmalah and anti-basmalah. And anti-basmalah, not saying that they're against the basmalah, it's meaning that they hold the view that it's not part of the, it's not a verse in al-Fatihah. So for the proof of pro-basmalah, you have people like Ibn Mas'ud, all right, and Ibn Umar. They used to instruct people that when they wrote the Quran to not include anything except ayats. And the copies of the Quran from the Salaf used to include the basmalah, right? So, and some from the Salaf include the basmalah as Ibn Abbas, Ibn Umar, Abu Hurairah, Sa'id, Ibn Jubair, Imam Shafi, Imam Ahmed. So what they're saying here is that scholars like these, Ibn Mas'ud, Ibn Umar, they used to instruct the people that when they wrote the Quran to write nothing except ayahs from the Quran. And the copies of the Quran that people used to wrote, they used to include the basmalah. So if they got that instruction from Abdullah ibn